Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. I've seen that a bunch of people have already made guides for World Boss Legend Ultron, but most of them are kind of lengthy, so this is my attempt at making a very quick and concise one, as well as giving you tips on how to best avoid that energy projection part that occurs when you go under 20 health bars, I believe, and give you my tips on the best characters that you can use, both T3 and Awakened, to beat this fight. So right off the bat, stating the basics of the fight, the boss has 30 health bars. When you get under 20 health bars, he can go into a phase where he releases energy from another dimension, or what I call kind of energy projection, that can occur at any point under 20 health bars, I believe, and when you go to the 8 health bar mark, when he is basically unkillable and will go into that or into his optimization. The main mechanic in this fight is that Ultron has a little bar that fills up under his health bar when you're not attacking him. When that bar gets to full, he goes into something called the optimization phase, where he'll start activating Infinity Stones, and if you get hit by any of them at any point, that character that you have out at that time will die. The sequence in which the Infinity Stones activate is always random for every fight that you enter, but each color Infinity Stone is always associated with one particular attack. So once you learn what color matches what attack, you can know how to avoid it. After each stone activates, you have a little bit of a window to attack him, and once 3 attacks are placed in, you stop that phase from killing you. But if you don't attack at any point while each stone keeps activating, once all 6 activate, your character will still die, regardless if you got hit by any of the attacks or not. So here you can see the basic mechanic of the fight. If you use any skills, including your auto attack or your basic attack, it will keep that bottom meter from filling up and preventing Ultron from entering his optimization phase. Even the lingering damage from strikers will keep that bar from filling up. Also note that at any points throughout the fight, he can go into kind of an iframe, and then he'll go into his Infinity Stone kind of attacks. So once you see kind of an iframe or purple auras appear, you want to avoid that damage since it can potentially one-shot you. Once that bar is full, he'll enter the optimization stage and start using different stones which associate to different attacks. So when he enters this phase, it's best to stay in the middle of the arena and look at where the Infinity Stones light up so you know which attack is coming. The orange Infinity Stone spawns pillars of damage that linger for the rest of the phase and spawn at your feet. So it's best to go in the corner of the map and just take a step or two every time you see a purple circle appear, so you bunch it all in the corner of the map and prevent it from being an obstacle to you for the rest of the phase. By the way, after each stone activates, try to go back into the center of the arena so you have a lot of space to work with. The yellow Infinity Stone will spawn a kill zone throughout the majority of the map except for a little ring around Ultron. He will immediately jump to your location when the stone activates, so all you really need to do is take a few steps away from him. This is why it's important to try to stay near the center of the map, because if you're near the edge, part of that ring might be inaccessible. The green Infinity Stone will spawn 3 line attacks that are positioned towards you. All you have to do when this activates is run away from Ultron for as long as you can before the purple line appears showing that the attack is going to hit you. When you see that purple line appear, you want to move perpendicular to it or in a 90-degree angle from its position. So here you can see after I dodged the first attack, now I'm moving away from him to get some distance from the attack to allow me to move and dodge it. Now that I see the purple line appear that it's about to target me, I move perpendicular to it or at a complete 90-degree angle from that line attack. So I do the same thing with the third attack to avoid that. The purple line appears and then I immediately go in that 90-degree angle to avoid the attack altogether. Again, once you've dodged all the damage, you want to try to move towards the center of the arena. The purple Infinity Stone, similar to the yellow Infinity Stone, will spawn a kill zone across the entire map except where Ultron is. The difference between this stone and the yellow stone is that the purple Infinity Stone usually has Ultron moving to the right of his current own location. So here you can see another instance of what I'm talking about. Ultron is on the far left and he'll jump to the top right, but regardless of whether it's up or down, he will jump to the right of himself. I've never really noticed him jumping to the left of himself, so when he's in the middle of the arena, he'll mostly just jump to the right of himself, whether it'll be a little bit higher up on the map or a little bit lower. The only real time that he'll jump to the left of himself is when he is at the very extreme right of the arena or the map. Because he has nowhere else to go on the right side, he'll basically just move a little bit to the left of where he's at. Regardless, when the purple Infinity Stone activates, you generally want to move towards him and anticipate that he'll likely land a little bit to the right of himself. The blue Infinity Stone seems to be the trickiest because it activates very quickly and seems to have a randomized attack pattern. When you see this stone activate, you don't want to move till you've seen Ultron move, and then you move to where he is at and a little bit past to avoid the huge half circle attack. Once you have cleared that attack, stop moving again, and then take the few steps needed to clear the next attack. Do the same thing after you've cleared the second attack. It'll just be a few steps towards the next direction. Even though he has a very large AoE and the attack is very quickly, if you do this, you should be able to avoid all three attacks relatively easily. I've noticed that some people try to move away from him, but depending on where you are on the map, you might not have enough space to actually clear the attack. Whereas if you move towards him, even if you reach the very extreme of the arena and the purple attack looks like it's going to hit you, it actually doesn't hit you at all. The red Infinity Stone is likely the easiest or second easiest to dodge, since all you really have to do is run away from where you're currently standing. Usually you can run in a pretty big circle, either in a clockwise or a counterclockwise direction. It doesn't really matter, just as long as you're constantly moving away from your previous position. However, as you can see here, if you don't attack at least a total of 3 times after each Infinity Stone activates, when all 6 activate, you will still die. So just learning the patterns isn't enough. You also need to be able to at least attack in some form after an Infinity Stone activates. One trick that you can use if you think you're going to get hit by one of the Infinity Stone attacks is to swap to another character. In that brief 1 second or half-second window, you are basically untargetable, so if any attack actually were to hit you, it wouldn't insta-kill your character. Another trick you can use if you're having difficulty with this optimization phase is to bring a character that has the immortality effect. If at any point you're hit by one of those Infinity Stone attacks, or you aren't able to stop his attacks, even after all 6 activate, he won't be able to kill your character. So here is what it looks like when you're actively trying to stop the optimization phase. As you see, after he has used an Infinity Stone, I want to use any kind of attack, and because most other 1 through 5 skills are kind of long animations, it's actually better to use an auto attack, since it's a very quick half-second to 1 second attack that will stop the meter or reduce it down. As a quick note, after you've used your basic or manual attack, you can see that in the meter under Ultron's health bar, the bar will start to go down. Keep in mind that the bar will not register any hits when it is decreasing. It will only register a hit when it's stopped moving and Ultron is targetable. So you don't really need to spam attacks, you only need that one attack when the bar has dropped down to that point where it's stopped moving. This is important because if you spam attacks, it might put you in a bad position and end up killing you. Another thing to keep in mind is that once you've gotten him under the 8 health bar mark, you cannot stop the optimization phase from starting. It will constantly keep cycling and activate, and you will be forced to go into the mode and stop him that way. Now once you get him under the 20 health bar mark, he can go into a phase called the energy projection phase, or energy from another dimension. During this phase, the arena is basically broken down into 4 quadrants, and each quadrant has basically a one-shot attack that will activate on it. So you need to know which way to go in order to avoid all the attacks. The strategy that I've developed for this to always avoid getting hit is to move your character in the bottom right portion of the top left quadrant. So that would be right here where the square is being shown. At any point during this phase, you can pause the fight to make it easier for yourself. For example, after the first attack pattern appears, you can pause the fight and you can see that the bottom left quadrant is the next position that you want to move to, but this is only after the beam attack has occurred. When the second attack pattern appears, you can pause the fight again, and then you can see which direction or rotation you will move the character after the attacks have started. So in this particular instance, I already know that my first movement will be down, where the first portal or attack will occur, and then I know my rotation will be in a counterclockwise fashion, because the next position that I move to will be the brightest square or quadrant on the arena. So you can see that in action here. I start in the left, move down to the right, and then unnecessarily move up, but I could have just avoided that attack. There'll be certain instances where the energy attack will occur in your starting position. When that happens, you simply just move to the quadrant right underneath in the top right corner, which I'm showing here with a square. Then you follow the same kind of pattern that I explained previously. Then the final instance is when the energy attack lands on the same position that you're at, and the next energy attack lands in the next quadrant that you would be starting in. So basically they're crisscross attacks. In this instance, you again start in the lower quadrant position, and then after the first attack occurs, you move to the top quadrant position, and then after the second attack occurs, you move to the bottom quadrant position, and then to the right. So to summarize the movement for this pattern, you would start in the bottom quadrant this time, go up, and then down, and then to the right. So if I actually did that here, I would have started at the bottom, moved up after the first shot, down after the second shot, and then right after the other ones occurred. Here is another example. I should have started in the top left quadrant. 1 is the first attack that appeared, and 2 is the brightest square. That means that I'm going to move from the top left quadrant down to the right and continue in a counterclockwise fashion. And as you can see, that's what I do to avoid all the attacks. Here's yet another example. This time the first attack is where my original starting quadrant would be, so I start at the bottom left quadrant. The first attack is obviously in the top left, and the brightest square is the top right. So that means I'm going to move up, to the right, down, and then left in a clockwise fashion this time. And again, as you can see, I almost do the exact movements required to avoid all the damage from this phase. Here is one more example of that in real time, where I pause the fight. I see the portal or projection energy started in the bottom left. The brightest square is the right, so that means I need to move down and to the right to avoid the damage. After all of the shots have fired, I go to my starting position. I see the pattern is the exact same, so I follow the same movement again to avoid the damage. Once you've practiced this strategy enough, you don't even need to pause the fight, since you'll be familiar with all the patterns and you'll never again get hit in this phase. The final tips that I'm going to leave you with is some recommendations for characters that you can use to take down Ultron quickly. The left side of the list is T3 characters, and the right side is awakened/transcended characters. Some of the reasons why I included these characters is because they have high burst damage in a short period of time, which you want because Ultron has really strong burst damage himself that can kill you if you stay in one position for too long. Besides that, some of these characters have good long-range basic attacks that allow you to stop those Infinity Stone attacks, or they have good lingering AoE damage for you to slow down that optimization phase start. There are definitely other characters that you can use, but these are the ones that I would recommend for those reasons, and because most of them also have healing. That wraps it up for this video. I put a lot of effort to explain and kind of visually show what I was talking about, so if you found this video helpful, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with your friends. As always, thank you for your time in watching, but the video is now over.